Welcome back. Before the first break, we were talking about the planning for the coup d'etat of July 1994. And the last thing we talked about was how the Nigerian officers reacted to the rumors of coup d'etat. So you told us that some of the evidence that we've heard that the Nigerians, in fact, encouraged the coup d'etat, or that they gave a blind eye to what they knew was happening, uh, in your view, was false. So tell us what happened after you left the airport, Jame having been disarmed, the weapons did not come as planned. What happened after that? But seeing that it's 12, it's noon, and we would only have a few more hours of testimony for today, I would encourage that on some of these issues we try to summarize them, and that would give us more time to really look into the more substantive issues that we have to deal with. But thank you very much for your understanding. Proceed, please, and tell us what happened after you left the airport.
Yes, sir. After we left the airport, as we always do, we went back to the barracks. We returned those with weapons, with rifles, returned them to the armory, those of us with the colors, returned the colors, and then we dispersed. On this occasion, because launch of the coup had failed at the airport, I believe some of the soldiers did not disperse.
This rumor that there was going to be a coup d'etat, did the rumor include the names of those who were suspected to be planning the coup d'etat?
I would imagine so. I did not hear the rumor. I was part of it. So I don't know what rumor or what information was received by the higher authorities, or how they heard it, or who was mentioned.
You told us earlier that at the planning stages, you were put under surveillance, some form of surveillance. On the 21st of July, were you paid any special attention?
Yes, in fact, we were.
Who do you mean when you said we?
Well, those of us that were especially perhaps the ringleaders of the coup, this is what I believe. I know for myself in particular. But let's break it down a little bit more. What happened to Sana Sabali? A couple of days before the 21st, because of the rumor, and I'm quite sure his name being mentioned, he was transferred to Farafenye. He didn't go. I think he went and came back and then did not go back. He was there for the event. So that is one example. I, for myself, when we left Yundum and I was dropped home, I could see there was somebody hanging around the junction of my house who was looking at me and looked suspect. I believed that he was an agent of the NSS. I went in, changed, and came out very quickly, and he was still around, and not snooping around, but like he was trying to, it appeared as if he was monitoring me. So what I did, because we had agreed to meet up, myself and Jamme, Sana was nowhere to be seen. So because we were downhearted, we were disgruntled, we didn't know what was going to happen. This thing had failed, it's out in the open, most likely we are going to be arrested. So in order to get to Jamme's house in Bakau, what I did, I came out of the compound, he was still there looking. I got into a taxi immediately and then went to Serakunda. Immediately joined a vehicle to Banjul. I dropped off almost opposite the the hospital and ran down one of those small streets to Gloucester. There was a shop on the corner, so I waited there for a few minutes to see if I was being tailed. I was not. I then proceeded immediately to the Bakau garage and spent some time in the shop just to see if I was still being tailed. And I waited for one of the vans, because you know they wait for the vans to fill up before they depart. I waited until there was a last passenger for one of the vans, and the next van would have to fill up. So I jumped in quickly, and then the van departed.
Just to make sure that the next van would not depart immediately.
Exactly. But you know, I mean, being a trained officer, I mean there's certain precautions that you were taught. I mean, how to use.
What time of the day was it?
This was in the early evening. I cannot remember when the plane landed, but the guard of honor doesn't take much time. We went, deposited the colors, and then we departed Yundum almost immediately. I think it was still light, because being July, it was just after dusk.
And did you meet Jame?
Yes, I went straight to his house. I met Jammeh, and he was there with one Ibrahim Abba. This Ibrahim Abba at the time was my company sergeant major. And he was also part and parcel. He was on board, but not one of the officer ringleaders. He was an NCO at the time. Hope I'm not speaking too fast for the interpreters.
Well, it's fine for now. Proceed.
Okay. So,
well, the interpreters just indicate that you should slow down a little bit.
Okay. My apologies. So the three of us were at Jammeh's house, and we were debating on what to do next.
Did you agree anything?
Well, Ibrahim Abba was saying that it has failed, it's not going to succeed, everything is over, and an argument ensued, a bitter argument between him and Jammeh ensued. I had to come between them. But we had generally agreed that in the morning we would launch the coup, because the soldiers had been briefed and it was ripe. But we were also informed that the following morning, it was not that we were informed, we were aware of the presence of a U.S. Marine vessel, Lamore County, that was in the Gambia, supposed to have exercises, a military exercise with them. So before the exercise, we had decided that we would launch the coup before the exercise.
Was it designed to use the exercise as cover for the coup you were going to launch?
No, it was mere coincidence. The coup was in the making long before we were even informed of the imminent arrival of the U.S. Marine Corps vessel.
So what time did you leave Jammeh's house on that evening?
I left Jammeh's house pretty late. I went home, and then a couple of hours later, Jammeh had arrived at my house. He was shouting, but I was sleeping, and then he was throwing stones on my roof to get my attention. And my mother woke me and said that somebody shouting your name outside, and I got up and realized it was Jammeh. He told me to dress up and come out, so I did. Dressed up, and he told me that Sana had just called him and told him that Sana had broken into one of the armories at Yundum Barracks, and that the coup is on, and that he should come and bring me along. So the coup in itself was launched by Lieutenant Sana Sabali. He launched the coup.
So what time did Jammeh arrive at your house? Do you know?
Somewhere between, I think it was after 2, between 2 and 3.
So what did you do upon receiving that information?
I followed him. We went, I dressed up and we went to Yundum.
And tell us what you found in Yundum when you arrived.
When I arrived, or when we arrived at Yundum Barracks, there were soldiers who were not supposed to be there, obviously soldiers who had not gone home after the airport.
And these are soldiers belonging to Alpha Company or soldiers belonging to other companies?
Well, I believe there was a mixture. Because I can recall seeing soldiers from other companies as well. The main company on parade and on that day was Alpha Company. That was the company on parade.
By coincidence or by design?
No, that was by coincidence. We did not have the power to pick whatever company is detailed to go on parade. In fact, you have three infantry companies, infantry companies in an infantry battalion. One is on guard duty, the other one is on standby, the other one is on rest. So the ones on guard at the time would be exempt from parade.
So you arrived with Jame at Yundum Barracks. You found all the soldiers there.
Yes.
Tell us what happened quickly in summary so that we can make progress.
Yes, well, soldiers were being armed. They were taking arms from the armory, but the armory...
The old or the new armory at that time?
It was the old armory that Sana Sabali had broken into.
Yes. And what type of weapons did he take from that armory?
Various weapons. There were some GPMGs, general purpose machine guns. There were some other support weapons. There were some AK-47s, but not that many.
And then when you arrived there, what did you guys do?
Well, we started trying to organize the men that we had with us. And that took a very long process, because the more you try to organize the men, prep them for departure, for both Fajara Barracks and for State House, the more men were coming, the more arms and ammunition were required. So there was a need to break into the main armory. Now, I know they looked for the keys, they couldn't find the keys, and then, because I think they broke into the adjutant's office and searched the place, they couldn't find the keys. But what I do know is that subsequently, my AK-47, my personal rifle, was brought to me.
At what time was that?
This was early hours of the morning.
6, 7, or 4, 5?
No, not 4, 5. I think somewhere between 6 and 7, but it's been 25 years. I cannot remember the exact time.
Was it before or after the arrival of Sirif Gomez?
It was before the arrival of Sheriff Gomez that I myself had my weapon.
Okay. So you organized yourself?
Yes, sir.
And prepared for deployment?
Yes, sir.
At that stage, where was the duty officer at the camp?
Now, we were busy organizing, as you had just mentioned, and it was after a while that we realized that the duty officer was not around. So we went to, so we asked for him and we were told that he was in the officers' mess or the anteroom. We went, myself, Sana Sabali and Yaya Jamme, to go and get him. And we looked through the window and he was dressing up at the time.
What was his name?
His name was Omar Mbai. He was a lieutenant at the time. So we knocked on the door and asked him to open, and he eventually opened the door. And when he opened the door, we secured him and took him to the guard room.
What do you mean by we secured him?
We took his AK-47 and we took him to the guard room and detained him.
You arrested?
Well, yes, we arrested him, but we didn't tell him that you were under arrest. We just told him to come with us. Yes.
So, and then you detained him where?
We detained him in the guard room at Yundum Barracks.
At that stage, did you make a decision as to what should happen to officers or men who would come into the barracks?
Yes, we did. We had taken a decision and given an order for all officers who were not part of the coup to be temporarily detained until the outcome of the takeover, till the outcome of the coup.
Were any officers arrested and detained after Mr. Mbai was arrested?
Several officers were arrested and detained, but the reason for that was a simple one. You see, once you launch a coup and you have some that are not part of the coup in the same barracks with arms and ammunition, there could the most likely outcome is that fighting would break out, and we did not want to start fighting amongst ourselves even before we had departed. So in order to prevent bloodshed amongst ourselves, or for fighting to spill out into the wider population, we detained them at Yundum Barracks.
But you would agree with me that that was supposed to be a temporary measure until the dust has settled?
Absolutely. It was just a temporary measure.
And you would also agree with me that the conditions of detention did not need to be harsh because these people were just to be secured in order to ensure that they are pretty much neutralized from the possibility of launching a counter coup.
I absolutely agree, but we could only make use of the infrastructure and facilities available to us at the time.
We would come to all those things later. So Mr. Sirif Gomez, he arrived in the morning. Could you tell us what happened to him?
Yes, I was somewhere in the barracks, and I was alerted that there was a commotion in the guard room, that Sirif Gomez had arrived, that they had asked him to get into the cell, and he refused, so there was a commotion. So I went to the guard room, and as soon as I arrived, he tried to walk towards me. He was obviously stopped. He was surrounded by 2 or 3 other soldiers, and then he asked me what is going on, and I explained to him. I told him that there is an imminent, there is a takeover in progress, and this government, the Jawara regime, is going to be removed. So he tried to say that he was part of it and so on and so forth, but obviously I didn't buy into that. But with the commotion in the guard room, I did fire a shot into the ceiling. Now,
into the ceiling of the guard room?
Into the ceiling of the guard room.
Well, the story we received from Sirif Gomez suggests that this event, in fact, took place outside the guard room, and that you fired shots, not just one shot over his head, intimidating him, scaring the hell out of him.
Not true. First of all, whether inside or outside of the guard room, if I had fired shots just above his head, there would have been bullet holes in the wall behind him. So,
not necessarily.
Of course, because just above his head.
If it was outside,
if it was
open space.
No, it's not an open space, because obviously if it was outside the guard room, he would have just come outside and his back would have been to the guard room, and therefore whatever shots I fired would have gone directly into the wall. But the incident took place inside the guard room, not outside.
You secured Sirif Gomez and ensured that he was detained, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then what happened after that?
Well, once he was secured, I went back to the business of organizing the troops.
What time did you and your crew decide to leave Yundum Barracks to go and to the various locations that you were supposed to go?
When we had been satisfied that all of the troops had been armed, we divided them into 3 groups. One group to go to State House, one group to go to Fajara Barracks, and the other group to remain at Yundum and provide reinforcements as and when necessary.
Okay, let's do this quickly.
Yes.
The group at Yundum was under whose leadership?
It was under Ibrahim Abba.
That's the sergeant who
Yes.
had altercation with Yaya Jammeh the night before.
The company sergeant major.
That's right. And who was to go to Fajara Barracks?
Fajara Barracks was Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara.
And who was to take State House?
Myself and Yaya Jammeh.
Okay. Did the deployment go smoothly?
Well, the deployment did not go smoothly at the beginning.
Why?
Because the trucks, the vehicles at Yundum were immobilized. Immobilized in the sense that the keys were all missing. Now, we wanted to perhaps break the ignition and hot wire, but then we thought, look, these are vehicles that if we succeed, we're going to rely on. There's no need to do damage to them. We went to the highway and commandeered several vehicles.
Who gave that order?
It was a decision, it was not a specific order that you, X, Y, and Z do this. What we realized was that we had a mobility situation and vehicles were passing along the highway. So it was just suggested, let us go and commandeer vehicles, and that's what we did.
At this stage, was there a designated leader for the coup?
There was no designated leader for the coup. In fact, we had agreed not to distribute positions of responsibility amongst ourselves at any point in time. Firstly, because we didn't know who was going to live and who was going to die. But moreover, because really that was not the reason why we launched the coup in the first place.
So, tell us the sequence of deployment.
Yes. Once we had enough vehicles to move to the various locations, Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara and their troops boarded their vehicles and departed.
To Fajara Barracks.
To Fajara Barracks. I lined up the vehicles for State House and got the men on board, and then Jammeh said that I can go ahead without him.
He tried to chicken out.
Yes, he did. I just don't want you to use the word chicken. But yes, he tried to opt out of going to State House. And I told him that no, this is what we agreed on.
In fact, we did hear stories that he delayed and dilly-dallied and waited for Jujus to come from maybe Casamas or something, which he had to use before he left.
That is not true. Yaya Jammeh had more than enough jujus.
At any point in time,
At any point in time. In fact, he even gave me some. So he was very generous with. Okay. Let's put it this way. It's not only Yaya Jammeh who gave me jujus. Jujus came from all corners of the barracks. I didn't have any. I don't believe that those things can protect you from an AK-47 bullet.
How about Black Bulls? Can they?
Black Bulls? I don't think so. But soldiers would come and say, officer, okay, fente bulu bari nyimuta ase kantano.
Could you translate
sorry, sorry for breaking into Mandinka without seeking.
No, that is fine. If you wish, you could do part of your testimony in Mandinka, part in Wolof. If you can also do Fula, we'll be welcome.
Okay, kana koronto bina Mandinka kama fanang Fula bari nyato du Mandinka manke sandi.
Okay, good.
So what the soldiers would tell me is that, okay, so we know that you don't have any protection. Here's this; it will protect you from live bullets and save you, something like that.
We did receive testimony that somebody came with a calabash that contained some concoction for jamming, and Jammeh was generous to give to all those around him to apply on them. Is that story true?
I saw many strange things. Many strange things.
Is that one true?
But I did not see the calabash with a concoction. I did not.
Can you give us a little insight into those strange things, just very briefly?
Okay, there was a soldier that I saw with a stick in his mouth. And when I called him, he answered, "Yes, sir." And I told him, "Take the stick out of your mouth." He said, "Sir, no, sir. As long as it is in my mouth, nobody can kill me." So he had this stick in his mouth for as long as I can remember seeing him, from July 22nd to the couple of days after. So that was one of the, the things. But yes, of course, there were many jujus.
So you succeeded in getting Jammeh on a vehicle?
Yes. When he opted out, or tried to opt out, I refused. And I told him that no, it's not what we agreed. We are going to take State House, and you are coming. So I grabbed him by the arm and put him in one of the trucks, and I sandwiched him.
But this is a senior officer.
Sir, at that time, the reason why I had to go to that extent was because if you have opting out at that time, what will the other ranks do when bullets start firing?
You sensed that he was afraid. We heard that he was a coward. What would you say to that?
Sir, coward is a very strong word.
Well, you've been described here as a very brave soldier. He was described as a coward. What do you say to that?
I was just an average soldier. I would not say brave. But as far as his cowardice is goes, I would just say that he did want to opt out, and I refused.
He displayed tendencies of a coward. Yes or no?
Well, I am not sure. Anyway,
we will take it that perhaps you did not wish to paint your superior in such poor light, especially in such an important operation. But nonetheless, you had to grab him by the scruff.
Quite true.
And
not
put
by
him
the
in a
scruff.
vehicle.
Not
well,
by the
okay,
scruff.
by the neck or by the arm.
By the arm.
By the arm.
Yes,
Put
sir.
him in a vehicle,
Yes,
and
sir.
made sure that he was sandwiched by soldiers, so
Yes,
that
sir.
he wouldn't even have the chance to run away.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
That happened.
So you moved from there towards Banjul. Tell us what happened.
We disembarked shortly before the bridge. I cannot recall whether it was 700-800 meters or a kilometer, 1,000 meters, but we disembarked, and we moved tactically towards the bridge. What I did was, and I'm saying this, that I did this at this point in time because I drew the plans to take State House. Yahya Jammeh is not an infantry officer, and therefore he would not have been able to command the troops under such circumstances.
In fact, some say that because he was not an infantry soldier, he was not recognized as a soldier. The subordinates did not see him as a well-grounded soldier. And in fact, a lot of the time they looked down upon him as a soldier. Is that right?
What I can say is that Yahya Jammeh was trained by the gendarmerie and he was a paramilitary officer.
But this is an easy question for a yes or no answer.
Yes, sir, but I want to give some context to it. And since it is...
Can we answer yes or no, and then, if need be, we go into the context? Was he recognized as a well-trained soldier?
Sorry, just before I answer that yes or no, the reason why I did not answer yes or no is because there were so many parts to your question. And all of them cannot have a yes and all of them cannot have a no. But to this last question, yes, he was not recognized as just like the other infantry officers, because he was not. He did not have the skill set.
That's right, okay. And as a result of that, you took charge of the situation, correct?
All the way to Banjul State House, yes.
Yeah. So can you tell us what happened at the bridge when you arrived there?
Yes, sir. First of all, I had to put the troops in formation, which is normal when you are advancing to contact, expecting an ambush. You have to employ the formation that would be best employable against such a threat. So we reached the bridge, and we had found that some soldiers had already departed ahead of us and secured the combo side of the bridge. Now, there were also some members of the tactical support group commando unit.
Headed by who at the time?
At that time, I cannot remember who the head of the commandos were.
So I mean the tactical support group forces that you found at the bridge.
Yes, I cannot remember under whose command they were. But I do know that there was a group of them that were there. Believe there was there Major Suare there too? But what I do recall was that by the time we reached the bridge, RSM Jeng was just crossing the bridge to go back. So we spoke to the commandos at the bridge.
Do you recall who you spoke to specifically?
No, not specifically.
We received evidence that Major Suare was there at the time, and that he had a conversation with Yaya Jammeh and those who were with him. What do you say to that?
It's possible he conversed with Yaya Jammeh.
Yes, proceed, please.
Yes, no, I just answered your question. I said it's possible that he did have a conversation with Yaya Jammeh, but the main event at the bridge at the time, shortly before we were going to cross, because what we had realized was that the bulk of the commandos were on the other side of the bridge, towards the Banjul side, not within direct sight, but we knew they were there.
We received evidence from Captain Amadou Suare, captain at the time, and he said that when your party arrived, he spoke to Yaya Jammeh, and Yaya tried to convince him to support the coup. And Yaya promised him that he would be given the post of Minister of Foreign Affairs if he supported the coup. What do you say to that?
Well, I was not privy to that conversation.
Thank you. What do you say to also the suggestion by Suare that he agreed to support the coup and he asked his troops to join, but he told Jammeh that he would be the person to lead the party from Denton Bridge onwards to take State House, and that he in fact led the group from Denton Bridge to State House. What do you say to that?
Well, with regards to the conversation between him and Jammeh, I can neither confirm or deny that, because I was not privy to it. With regards to him leading the troops from the bridge to State House, that is inaccurate.
It's false.
It is not true, yes.
Who led the group, the troops, to State House?
I led the troops to State House. Jammeh was behind somewhere. Now, let me explain. Once we crossed the bridge tactically, they had already been divided into 3 groups prior. And we took the formation 2 up and 1 down. The headquarters was to be in the middle, and I was supposed to be there with Jammeh in the headquarters, controlling the movement towards Banjul. The group to my right was on the right side of the road. They were scattered anywhere from 20-30 meters from the highway into the mangroves, in an extended line, because we were expecting an ambush. There was another group towards the other side along the beach, and there was one in reserve. I'm using the term groups because they were not exactly platoons. They could have been oversized platoons, etc. But these were, normally it would have been either sections or platoons or companies, as the case may be. But because we did not have the exact size of the units, I divided them equally into 3 groups in this manner, expecting contact with the commandos at any point.
Did you encounter any resistance on the way to Banjul?
Well, what happened was that as soon as we crossed the bridge and we moved for a couple of 100 meters down the road, we saw a truck coming, and it stopped, turned, and then we saw commandos coming out of the bushes on the side of the road. They jumped onto the truck, and then it sped off to Banjul, towards Banjul. But we still ensured that we moved tactically, not believing that perhaps they were not going to still spring an ambush further down the line. But nonetheless, as my suspicions were true, whenever we came within a distance of 400-500 meters of the commandos, the truck, we will see the truck coming, and then they will come out of the bush, board the truck, and then head to Banjul. We finally encountered the group of commandos at Banjul, just opposite Gambia High School.
How about before, at around Bone Road, did you encounter any resistance?
Yes, with regards to the incident at Bone Road, yes. We moved towards Banjul in our formation, and less than 100 meters, somewhere between 50 to 75 meters away from the junction, we came under fire from the mangroves, which are on the right side of the road in the junction between Bond Road and the highway to Banjul. There's some mangroves, and there was a group of police officers that apparently were there, and they shot at us.
Was it the police officers who shot at you, or one specific individual amongst them?
Well, we came under fire, and so I believe that all of them were firing, because if it is one rifle, you know. If it is more than 2, you know. And it was a group of people that all opened fire at the same time, so we were ambushed. We dashed down, we conducted our anti-ambush drills, we laid down suppressive fire on the position. I signaled to the group to my right to flank. They initially couldn't see because from where I was and lying down, so I sent my runner. I can't remember who he was. I sent somebody within the headquarter group to go and ask them to flank.
Where was Yaya Jammeh at this time?
I don't know. He was somewhere behind. I didn't see him until, but I'm coming to that. Once they flanked,
we received evidence that it was AIG Chongan who, in fact, opened fire on your group, and when he realized that his men were not coming out to defend as he predicted, he also tried to run away from the scene to protect himself. What do you say to that?
No, sir. What I saw, or what I witnessed, was that my troops flanked, we took the position, but what we did sorry, what they did was that they stormed the position and took the rifles that the police had and yanked them out of the position.
Yes, but in relation to Mr. Chonga.
Yes, I'm coming to that, sir. Yes. So we brought them forward, and we started. Then Yahya Jammeh came. That was the time Yahya Jammeh came, when these people had been brought out from their ambush position. And we all asked them. We were asking them, who sent you? Why did you ambush us? We didn't fire on you. We were coming towards Banjul, and you opened fire. And I think they were led by one Vincent something. The surname will come to my mind, I'm sure, during the course of the testimony. But anyway, when Yahya Jammeh was also asking, because I think he knew some of them, they informed us that it was Ibrahim Chongan who had sent them. But I never saw Ibrahim Chongan at this. If he was there, I would have seen him. And if he had tried to flee, I would have seen somebody fleeing.
Well, he did say he fled the scene.
No, because if he had fled, we would have known that somebody had tried to escape. Because where did he escape to? That's what I don't know. And why would you go and lead your men into combat and then flee and leave them there?
Did you encounter fire only once during that operation?
We encountered that one along the way to Banjul. The next one was at State House, but I will explain that when we come to that.
On the way to Banjul, you did not encounter any other fire?
No, we did not.
Okay. So you went all the way to Gambia High School.
Yes.
Tell us what happened there.
Yes, sir. When we reached Banjul, just opposite the Christian cemetery, we could see the commandos opposite Gambia High School, the ones that had subsequently laid ambush for us, but entered their truck and then moved as we were advancing. So they did not attack, they did not fire upon us. So when we met them there, we decided to engage them. And I told them that, look, we are not here to fight against you. We are just here for the system. You can join us if you want. But if you don't want to join us, then we will have to secure you. So they agreed to join us.
Would Bineminte be amongst us?
No, sir. Bineminte was not there.
So what happened after that?
So they decided to join, and I disarmed them anyway. They protested, and I told them, no, you were just coming on board. Most likely we will encounter heavy resistance at State House, and I cannot risk having you, who you've been sent to neutralize us, amongst our ranks as we are trying to quell any resistance, possible resistance that we have, that we encounter at State House. So, what you do, if you believe in the cause, if you believe that a positive change can be made, just follow us. If any of us are shot and we fall, pick up that rifle and then continue the fight. So they agreed. They were behind, and then they followed. And we made sure that the rifles were kept in the truck that was following behind us with additional ammunition and other supplies.
And then from there, how did you go into Banjul?
So from there, I divided the troops further. One group was the group on the beach was to remain on the beach and go towards the rear of State House. The group from the rear was to go with Yaya Jammeh towards the back gate along Marina Parade. And I was supposed to go with the main group round the front gate to take State House from there, because the guard room is located nearer to the front gate, and we envisaged that that is where the heavy resistance would have been.
So your group went through Independence Drive, Bata, and then State House, Quadrangle area, then State House. Did you encounter any resistance there?
Well, once we reached Quadrangle, what I did, I divided the troops further. I sent a smaller contingent through Quadrangle, because there is cover. You cannot see from State House who is coming up through that. And I went with the larger group around where they would be able to see, and they would be concentrating on my group. So we turned towards the State House after going round July 22nd Square. We took up positions. Of course, you have
McCarthy Square.
Okay, sorry, it is now McCarthy. It's changed back.
No, that's just to lighten the mood, but go ahead.
Okay. If it has been changed back, let me know so that I can at least, because it was McCarthy Square at the time anyway. So we went round McCarthy Square and we took up positions. And once I had placed the men in in cover that would protect them from fire from within State House, I shouted and I demanded for the gates to be opened. Now, but I did obviously make a threat, because I shouted, there was no response. I shouted and I said, because we were armed with RPG-7s and so on, and machine guns, and I told them that, look, if you don't open, then I will have no choice but to blow the door open. So please open the gate. And then Bakari Kamara came to the gate. I think he was a sergeant at the time, and told me, don't shoot, the keys are with Langtombong Tamba. And I asked, where is Langtombong Tamba? He said, he's in the office. And I told him then, go and get the keys. So I held my men in their positions. We waited patiently. After a few minutes, he appeared. But as he was coming towards the gate, there was a shot that rang out. And I could see him take off his beret and then wave it to signify that the shot was not fired in aggression.
At this time, State House was not as fortified as it is today, and you could literally see through the gate.
I could see through the gate. I definitely could see through the gate. For those who cannot remember what the gate looked like at the time. So I could see, and once I saw that...
In fact, at the time, one could really walk almost through State House, in between the beach and the actual building.
Yes, there was a time that that was possible, but subsequently it was closed, and during, I think, the period of 1994, sorry, somebody signaling that there is no sound. Bakari Kamara came and opened the gate.
We received testimony suggesting that Yaya Jammeh spoke to Langtombong Tamba in Jola, and then Langtombong Tamba decided to open the gate, that is the back gate, for Yaya Jammeh and his party to walk into State House. What do you say to that?
What I can recall is that Bakari Kamara came with the keys, they had chained it and padlocked it and opened it, and I moved in with my men. I asked the presidential guards to lay down their weapons, which they did, and I assured them that there was going to be no harm that comes to any of them, that we are not interested in fighting with them. It was then that I sent somebody to go and open the back gate for Yaya Jammeh to come in.
As far as you're concerned, Langtombong Tamba did not have any role in that?
Not to my knowledge. To the best of my knowledge, what I have narrated here.
We received information that as soon as you entered State House, Yaya Jammeh took off his uniform and was bare-chested and having some of these judges in his mouth and exuding a lot of bravado and bravery. Yes, I have taken over State House. What do you say to that?
Well, when he was coming from the back gate after I sent people to open it, he still had his uniform on. There was no jujus in his mouth. And even though the way he walks, you know, is very distinguished, but...
Or distinctive?
Or, yes, if you want to use that adjective, yes. Distinctive, yes, perhaps might be the correct word. That was it. No, he was... there was no real sense of jubilation at the time. Things were tense.
And subsequently, what happened? Let's try to go through this quickly so that we can get to the most important details.
Yes, sir. Subsequently, what happened was Sana Sabali, sorry, in addition to Sana Sabali's mission to take Fajara barracks, he also had the mission to secure Gamtel and switch off the international gateway. Yes. Anyway, I mean, there were several other secondary objectives like closing down the airport, closing down the seaport, securing the borders, etc., etc. So once we had secured State House and Sana Sabali and others had come to join us, we set about doing most of those secondary tasks.
And you left State House to go and implement some of these secondary tasks. Is that true?
Yes, some were. I think Sana Sabali was the one who implemented most of those tasks.
Did you personally have to go to the Marine unit to secure their cooperation?
No, we did not. I visited the Marine unit, and they were already there on standby. There was no resistance. I met the commander of the Marine unit at the time, Major Antoman Saho, and he was welcoming, and he ensured that the ferries stayed on the side of Banjul, and that they were properly guarded, and that they were not able to ferry across to fetch anyone. We basically shut down all movement.
How was a government formed now that you have taken over State House? Tell us the process and how that unfolded.
Yes, sir. What we first of all did was decide to meet with officers from all of the security services, including those that had not been arrested from the Gambia National Army, which included, even customs was, I believe, was involved. What we wanted was to have the opportunity to explain ourselves. We didn't want instability immediately after we had taken over. We didn't want a fight to break out and there be bloodshed. the Almighty Allah had already blessed us with the main event or incident of taking over being completely bloodless. And this is what we wanted to maintain. It was important to us. So we met with all of the security officers and explained and asked for their buy-in, asked for their cooperation. Now, the first meeting was at the bandstand towards the Marina Parade Gate, the back gate towards the RVTH. And before we could conclude the meeting or even get halfway through the meeting, Sana Sabali arrived with his convoy along with Sadibu Haidara, and he was in a fit of rage. He was visibly disturbed, and he wanted to start opening fire on some of the officers. I can remember Jammeh asking him, "But Sana, Boyle, what is wrong? What is wrong?" And he said he heard information that the other officers wanted to launch a counter coup and remove us. But we had to physically restrain him and tell him that no, we invited them, we asked them to come. Because like I said earlier, he was the one who went out to implement most of the other tasks. So I don't know where he got this information and he rushed in. But once we had restrained him and tried to explain to him, he still wasn't happy, but the meeting had to end.
Could you tell us who are the senior officers who were present?
Every senior officer at the time.
I can suggest names to you.
Please.
Mamad Cham was present.
Oh, no, I don't believe Mamad Cham was present at that meeting.
Samsidin Sar, was he present?
Samsidin Sar, I know, was present at the next one in the drawing room, and I will come to that.
We did receive information that on the next day, Babukar Jata arrived there with Mamad Cham. And you personally sent Babukar Jata away, and you invited Mamad Cham in. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, there is some truth to that. We had sent, I'm not sure whether it's exactly the very next day or the day after, because things were moving pretty fast, and it was very difficult to keep track of time, and nobody was sleeping.
Yeah.
But when they did come, because we had already sent for Babukar Jata and asked him to come, and the information that we got back from the soldier that we sent, and for the life of me I cannot remember exactly who that was that Babukar Jata had said he had made some comments, and anyway, they were not positive. They were not against the coup, but like he was not sure where this thing is going, and he's not going to come, something of the sort. But it's understandable, you know, at that time.
Was that the reason why when he arrived you
That
sent
is
him
why
away?
I sent him away.
But you invited Mamad Cham
I
in.
invited Mamad Cham in. I
So
definitely
tell us
did.
how this government, this ruling council was formed.
Okay, so during the second or third meeting that we had with the officers, which was at the drawing room, we had no council, we had no government, we had just taken over, and there was a vacuum. Obviously, government, well, there was no government, of course.
But the day before, an announcement had been made, correct?
Not the day before that. The announcement of the takeover.
Yes.
Yes, had been made. Yes.
And by who do you recall?
Yes, I believe the first announcement was made by one Captain Sonko.
That's right. Do you know who wrote that speech? There is dispute. Some say it was written by Sonko, others say it was written by Captain Samsudin Sar, captain at the time. What do you say to that?
Now, let me explain exactly what happened. The announcement that was made by Captain Sonko was off the cuff, and it was wrong. We did not like that I think I did not hear the announcement, but from what I was told, he banged the table and was threatening that if anybody is seen, and they will be shot. It was not a friendly statement, but one of the principles of revolutionary warfare, which is also principle of counter-revolutionary warfare is winning the hearts and minds of people. We wanted to win the hearts and minds of Gambians. We didn't want to be chased out immediately. So, the statement that you're talking about happened immediately after the council had been formed.
That is the statement that was written and structured.
That was, there was a statement written by Samsidin Sar.
Was it read out?
No, that's not the statement that was read. The statement that was read was written by Yahya Jammeh himself. So,
this is at the stage when a council had been formed.
But let me just highlight a little bit about the statement.
Please proceed.
Samsidin Sar brought the statement to me, and I read it. It was good. And then Yahya Jammeh came downstairs, and I said, Captain Sar has written a statement. This is better than Captain Sonkos, and I believe you can read. He said he's written his own, and Captain Sar said, "Let me see." So he took the statement, looked at it, and then said, "Ndeke jola muna binda." I can recall Yahya Jammeh did not take too kindly to that. He didn't take any steps at that point, but I could see he was not happy. But that happened after the formation of the council.
Tell us how the council was formed.
So how the council was formed. During the meeting with the other officers in the drawing room inside the State House building. All of us were there, all of the council members were there. In fact, at that time, even Yankuba Toure and Major Jiba had crossed from Nyomi to Banjo on a small vessel, I believe, and left the troops on the other side. So there was a difficulty in getting any headway. Everyone was coming up with different ideas. It was not structured. The meeting was not chaired by anyone, because there was no leader. We did not have any specific or strict leadership. So Samsidin Sar actually was the one who got up and said, "Look, yena def sen kubi eglen siko." Sorry, can I speak Wolof? Yes.
By all means, please.
Because he said it in Wolof. Yena def sen kubi.
You did your coup d'etat?
Yes. Yena def sen kubi.
You did your coup d'etat?
Okay, I thought somebody was trying to put words in my mouth. Okay. That okay, when I speak vernacular, they have to interpret so that everyone. Okay, now I understand. My apologies. When a def kubi,
you did your coup d'etat.
Eglen siko.
Go upstairs.
Ngen decide yeninen.
Decide amongst yourselves.
Kan mo wara nekalan.
Who should become who what?
So len wache.
When you climb down. Or when you return.
It's not a ladder. If it was a ladder, then. But when you come down, we will accept whatever you have decided.
That's right. And you did exactly that.
Yes, we did.
And when you went upstairs, who went upstairs?
Lieutenant Jammeh, Lieutenant Sabali, Lieutenant Sadibu Haidara, and myself at that point.
No Yankuba Toure?
No Yankuba Toure at that point.
Okay. And then what was decided?
So, first of all, we looked at the leadership, who was going to lead the revolution at the time, who was going to be head of state. And I suggested Yahya Jammeh.
Why?
Well, because the way Sana had acted in the immediate aftermath got me worried that if he could threaten to kill security officers on information that has not been verified. That, well, is frightening. Frightening in the sense that you have somebody with such a temperament. It's not safe to put in such a position of power.
He was not stable enough to become head of state.
I would not say stable.
With an AK-47 and a rocket launcher in his possession.
I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
But you arrived at that conclusion.
I cannot say whether he was stable or not. But what I do know that his erratic behavior was a concern for me.
And erratic behavior got to do with one's stability.
Well,
isn't it?
If it is consistent, if it is consistent and permanent, then yes. But temporal erratic behavior doesn't mean that you are not stable.
But you believe nonetheless that at that time, Sana Sabali did not have the temperament to become head of state.
Yes, sir, I did.
So you supported Jammeh?
Yes, and I must state for the record, prior to that, Sana Sabali had been one of the nicest people you could possibly meet. You know, being a close friend and one of the because it was myself and him who started all of this. And he was my senior, even though we were both second lieutenants. It was either going to be him or me. Me, perhaps, because I did the bulk of mobilization of the troops and they had that affinity to me. Him, perhaps, because he was senior and had been in the army longer than me. So,
and launched the coup.
Yes, and launched the coup. Not to forget that.
But nonetheless, you selected Jammeh.
I suggested Jammeh.
Did the others agree?
Well, Sana Sabali, I could see, was not happy. And I agree, if I was in his position too, perhaps I would have felt the same.
Was that the beginning of bad blood between the two?
On hindsight, looking back on a lot of things, I believe perhaps it could have been, and perhaps even between myself and him.
And Sana, you mean?
Yes, yes, sir.
At that stage, having decided who was going to be head of state,
so what we did, yes, sir. What happened was when I suggested that Jammeh be the head of whatever we were setting up at the time, he should lead the whole process. I could see Sana's countenance change immediately. He was not happy, and was it Sadibu Hydra question, but why? And I said, but because he's the senior, he's the most senior, he's going to take the position. So then, he in turn immediately said, but then I want SINGHATEH as my vice.
Who said that?
Jammeh said that. And I told him, no, sir, I'm going back to barracks. They all said, no, we are in this, nobody's going anywhere. So then, it was Sadibu Hydra. So I think Jammeh repeated, yes, okay, then I want this man as the vice chairman. And it was Sadibu Hydra who said, no, was it not SINGHATEH who said seniority? Sana Sabali is senior to Edward SINGHATEH, and Sana Sabali should be vice. And I agreed, I concurred. I said, yes, if it's seniority, then of course. So Sana Sabali became vice chairman of the council at the time. So then, distributing the other positions, I straight away told them that, look, defense is my niche. I know that. I can promise that this country will be secure during whatever period we remain. So I took defense, and interior was given to Sadibu Hydra. Now, because of seniority, you had Jammeh, who was AFPRC 1, so yes, AFPRC 1, not to confuse it with APRC. And then Sana Sabali was AFPRC 2, second in command. Third was Sadibu Hydra 3, I was 4. Now, we decided that the four of us were not enough to manage a government, we needed more help, perhaps from amongst ourselves before we invite civilians. Now, I will explain the civilian component. So, no, actually, the first argument was that the council itself is too small. So I suggested Yankuba Ture, and Yahya Jammeh said no. Why Yanks? And I said, no. Well, you might not know, but Yanks was aware of this all along. He did not betray us. He did not report the matter. So he deserves a position on the council. So we agreed, and Yankuba was sent for and made Minister for Local Government and Lands. So we thought, okay, but we have other senior officers. What do we do? We then decided to appoint Mama Cham, Minister for Works, Samson Insar, Minister for Information, and Director of Medical Services was to go to, it was Dr. Njai, Pacha Njai, who was appointed as Director of Medical Services. So this was the military component. And then it came to selecting a good and strong, robust civilian component that will be able to complement the military council and take the country in the right direction.
That's how AFPRC was born.
Yes, sir.
But soon after its birth, some of the co-opted members or some of the ministers some of the military personnel who were designated ministers were arrested, and there were many more arrests of security detainees, of military personnel, correct?
Yes, sir, that is definitely correct.
In fact, many people were arrested, officers were arrested and detained, including I am reading from Exhibit 3, Madam Chair. We have Captain Ibrahim Kambi, Captain Mamad Cham, Captain Bell Wilson, Captain Sirif Samsar, Captain James C. Johnson, Captain Nur Cham, Captain Momodou K. Sonko. Captain Sonko, that's Kenyeleng Manso, isn't it?
Yes.
He's the guy who announced the coup in the first instance.
Yes, sir.
Captain Nur Cham was one of the original members who fell by the wayside, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you have Major Malik Esnjai, who was made Director of Medical Services.
Yes, sir.
Major Turo Jaune, Lieutenant Sirif M.L. Gomez, Second Lieutenant Alaji Kante, who too was an original member, Second Lieutenant A. Kinte, I would imagine, original member, Second Lieutenant Yankuba Drame, Sergeant Musa Mane, Sergeant Faraba Sabali, Staff Sergeant Lamin Sambu, WO2 Babukar Jeng, WO Alaji Fai, WO2 Musa Sise, Private Boridabo, Corporal Momodou Njai, Cadet Superintendent Abubakar S. Jeng, Inspector R. Korea, IGP Pasala Jan, AIG Ibrahim Chongan, ASP Jame Konta, Chief Superintendent Sirif Mbai, Superintendent Alundur, and Lieutenant Keba Diba. All arrested and detained in Mile 2 prison.
Yes, sir. They were not all arrested and detained at the same time.
Yes, that is correct.
I think, and because I heard Sergeant Faraba Sabali, is that?
Sergeant Faraba Sabali, yes.
Yes, I don't believe that he was supposed to be a security detainee. I cannot recall what happened. But
well, he was gazetted as a security detainee.
Okay.
But in any case,
yes,
the point is that all these people were
yes,
arrested at different stages after the coup and detained at Mile 2 prison.
Yes, sir.
And some of them were in fact arrested on the first or second day of the coup. Those include RSM Jeng.
Yes, sir.
And the likes of Lieutenant Sirif Gomez was in fact detained on the very first day of the coup
yes,
and later transferred to Mile 2 prison.
Yes, sir.
You told us earlier that the purpose of this arrest was to secure these people temporarily.
Not most of them, because I'm not aware of the arrest of most of those people on the list. I was not part of those who arrested them.
It's one thing to be part of the
I
party.
am not trying
Hear
to
the
extricate
question
myself. What I'm trying to say is that
Hear
I
the
was not
question
aware.
first.
Okay, sir.
Hear the question first. It is one thing to be part of the party arresting them. It is another thing to be aware that these people have been arrested under the authority of the AFPRC, to which you are an important member.
Absolutely.
Good. So you would agree, as you mentioned earlier, that these people were arrested as a temporary measure in order to secure the coup d'etat.
When you say these people, not all of them, because if you were not arrested on that day itself, then you were not arrested to secure the coup d'etat. The coup d'etat finished once the government had been formed. Others, sorry, sir?
I say precisely the point. But others were arrested on the suspicion that they were planning a coup d'etat.
Or
correct?
security threats.
Or they were security threats.
Yes, sir.
All right. But you would agree with me that these people were detained for extended periods of time, correct?
Yes, I cannot recall the exact period, but yes, they were detained for extended periods of time.
In fact, some of them were detained for over 2 years.
Yes, sir.
In terrible conditions at Mile 2 prison.
Absolutely, sir.
In the security wing of Mile 2 prison.
Yes, sir.
And it was quite obvious to all of the AFPRC council members that these officers were detained in inhumane conditions.
Well, they were detained in conditions that were available at the time.
Nonetheless, these conditions were inhumane.
Well, yes, of course. On hindsight, yes, they were inhumane.
No, but this cannot be on hindsight. This is as at the time of the detention, AFPRC were aware that these people were detained in horrible conditions.
Well, we were aware that they were detained. Well, put it this way. They were detained mostly by Sana Sabali.
No,
please,
we would not accept that.
Let me
they were
explain.
detained by the AFPRC, correct?
Please, let me explain. If you don't allow me to talk, you will not understand.
Proceed, please.
Yes. So a lot of them, or some of them, were detained not on the order of or agreement of council in general. Some of them were picked from Yundum barracks, and Sana Sabali would later say, yes, he has arrested X, Y, Z. And I'll give you an example. And I would like you to go and verify this. There was a day Sana Sabali went to Yundum because all of the officers and soldiers that were not at State House were at Yundum. And what Sana Sabali would do would detain, arrest, and detain.
Mr. Singhate, what I'm trying to drive at is that Mr. Sabali was not just arresting and detaining people for himself. He was doing it for and on behalf and in the name of the AFPRC, correct?
Well, sir, if you do not allow me to talk, you would not
but
understand.
You can answer the question
yes,
as to a yes or a no. But was he, okay, let's put it this way. There was an arrest. There was the detention of armed forces and police personnel decree. Was there not such a decree?
I believe there was.
And that decree must have been passed by the AFPRC.
It was.
Exactly. And that decree gave Sana Sabali the authority to detain people, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And therefore, whatever Sana Sabali did in pursuance of that decree was done for and on behalf of the AFPRC.
Absolutely, Council.
Okay,
I'm not disputing that. What I
but,
want to
but
tell
this
you,
is the point that I am making, Mr.
but what I
Singh.
want to tell you too is that some of these people were detained even before the decree was passed.
That is
So
correct.
obviously they were not detained pursuant to that decree on and behalf of everyone.
No,
But
that is not correct, Mr.
you see,
Sabas.
sir, please.
Just hear me out. Just hear me out. Their detention were gazetted, correct?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
But what is the date of the Gazette?
The Gazette came ex post facto. It came later. The Gazette came on 22nd August of 1994. So the Gazette pretty much validated the detentions that have been made by the AFPRC, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So therefore, the responsibility for those detentions would not fall on Sana Sabali alone, it would fall on the AFPRC, correct?
But sir, if you had allowed me to continue, you would have heard that I am not trying to put the detention on one person.
Okay.
And
But let's discuss
you see, if you don't allow me to take responsibility, it will appear through this exchange that I'm trying to extricate myself.
Okay, all right.
So if you don't hear me out, what the viewers would think is that Edward Singhateh is trying to take himself out of something that has happened
we have to be fair to you.
for which he bears responsibility.
We have to be fair to you, Mr. Singhateh. I accept I have to give you ample opportunity to answer the question.
Exactly.
But at the same time, too, we do not have the luxury to be just going all over the place. If you just listen to my questions and you focus on answering the questions, I think we can cut through the chase very quickly. What I am trying to drive at, and perhaps that is what you are trying to say, is that the legislative and executive arrangements that you had in place at that time made the AFPRC responsible for all those arrests and detentions of the security detainees. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And the situation at that time, the conditions of these detentions were horrible. And this was a known fact to the AFPRC, correct?
Absolutely.
And you all were aware that your colleagues, your seniors, most of them your seniors, were detained in inhumane conditions.
Absolutely.
And that it is in fact contrary to the UN standard minimum rules for the treatment of prisoners to detain anybody in such horrible conditions, irrespective of what their crime was.
Yes, absolutely. But allow me to explain now, if you would.
Please.
Okay. Now, firstly, what I was trying to explain or put across is that there are a number of detentions that occurred without prior consultation. Now, having said that, I fully own up to everything, especially with regards to the detainees.
In that regard, you accept responsibility for the unlawful.
Now you are interjecting. You either allow me to explain or you come and sit here and explain on my behalf, sir.
No.
I don't know which one is going to happen.
Mr. Singhateh, I have to run the proceedings. I have to be able to ask questions that I want to ask, where I think it's convenient to ask those questions. If I just give you that free rein, we would never finish. 3 years we wouldn't finish. You'd just be going on and on and on.
I would not take 3 years.
Okay. All right, let's try to take just 2 days.
But what I do want to do.
Okay, explain yourself, I'm listening.
What I do want to do, and with all due respect to you and the time, as you told me, is that it's a fact-finding mission. You want to get to the truth. If you don't want to hear the facts, then just read out the adverse mentions and I'll say yes or no. But if you want an explanation and the background so that you can have an understanding of what happened, so that we can together as a nation heal, and the slogan, as it says, never again, through understanding of what happened, then fine. If it is going to be punitive, yes or no, did you do this, do you accept this, we can do that within 5 minutes, we will leave.
Mr. Singhate, please, and with all due respect too, I cannot sit here and just give that free rein where we would have testimony that is unguided. That would be most unprofessional. You have your own set ideas as to what you want to say. We have your statement. I believe all the things you want to say are in the statement. The statement, in fact, would be put in evidence. So all those things you want to say would be in evidence. But also, please do understand that I have a responsibility to elicit particular facts from you, and that I would have to ask those questions. But if I do not interject now and again to we take a break now, you and I would have a conversation, and we would further discuss the rules. I am sure it would not be difficult for you and I to have a common agreement or understanding as to what we are going to do, and that way we would make good progress. Be rest assured that there is nothing that you would want to say that I would have the intention of trying to bury. That would be most unprofessional. But at the same time, too, be rest assured I would not give you that free rein to just go into issues that are not necessarily helpful to this inquiry. So we would agree to, I would give you the opportunity to explain yourself, but if you digress onto issues that are not necessarily so helpful or within the parameters of what we are looking at, I will bring you back. So, and in that case, you have to accommodate my interjection. Sorry about that. Perhaps, Madam Chair, we can.
No, please, may I ask crave your indulgence? I have, before we go to break, I have one question and a statement. First of all, let me make the statement. With regards to the detainees, and we will come to, to this, hopefully after the break. There are some people who should not have been there to begin with. Whatever happened with regards to their detention and the conditions were wrong. I accept my rule, and I deeply apologize for that.
Thank you.
Because you didn't allow me to come to where I wanted to get. But anyway, my question now is, because I will also apologize after we come, and I will mention certain names from the list and explain why they should not have been there. My question is to you after the statement is, once you ask a question or state a fact or an allegation, will, even though I would not take 3 years or go off topic, will you allow me to explain? This is what I want to know.
Where an explanation is required, obviously I would. So we agree on that.
Where an explanation is required according to is it personally your judgment that on certain issues you wouldn't want an explanation and I should just say yes or no?
Mr. Singhate, I am counsel. I ask the questions. You answer the questions. All right? You would be given an opportunity at the end of the day to make a statement.
Okay.
If you think that there are certain things that you need to say which have not been said, you can write to the commission and submit them further. But be rest assured that I will do my utmost to be as fair to you as possible. The only thing that I will guard jealously is the time. We cannot afford to be going into facts that are not necessarily central to the issues under inquiry.
I will not give you facts that are not essential. I will give you facts that will make your job easier and be beneficial for the information of the Gambian people. Thank you.
On that note, we can take a short break. Thank you.
I didn't say when we are coming back. We come back at, what's the time now, 2:40? 2:40.
Thank you.